Hello, everybody. Happy holidays almost. Thursday, December 15th. Time for another global travel update. And as you know, over the last couple of weeks, we've been traveling everywhere: Antarctica, Saudi Arabia, France, and now a surprise for you. We're coming to you from Ranchos de los Caballeros in Wickenburg, Arizona. And if you've got some comments or questions, you know exactly what to do. Send them in to me. We'll get to them this hour. Lots of stuff to talk about in the news. I'm going to start with December. Before we even get to holiday travel, I'm going to share with you why December is a wild month when it comes to history and travel. All right? Let's start out with this is the week of Kitty Hawk, right? The Wright brothers' first flight back in 1903. It's also the week back in 1991 that Pan Am ceased to operate. It's also the week in 2001 that TWA ceased to operate. And 45 years ago this month, a story that I covered, so I'm feeling a little old, Eastern Airlines Flight 401. That was the Lockheed 1011 that made an unscheduled and unanticipated landing in the middle of the Everglades. You've seen there was a movie about it, about the ghost of Flight 401, crazy stuff. That was a really unfortunate situation where they had a warning light that went off in the cockpit saying that they couldn't lower the landing gear. There was a procedure, of course, on all these planes for a manual override. And in order to do that, the captain or the co-pilot had to open up a hatch between the two seats. And in there was a crank that they could literally crank the nose wheel down. And when the pilot moved over to do that, he accidentally disconnected the autopilot, which was flying the plane at a level altitude. And what they didn't notice is when he disconnected the autopilot, the plane started descending. And by the time they realized how low they had gone, they were in the Everglades. And a crazy story. All of this in the month of December. But I got one more. 44 years ago this week, another story that I covered, and it resulted in a movie that I know you've watched. One of my favorite movies, by the way, Goodfellas. But the real story was 44 years ago this week. The largest cash robbery in American history happened at JFK at about 3 o'clock in the morning because this gang, by the way, Robert De Niro played the leader of the gang in the movie. This gang realized that one day a week, Lufthansa had a 747 that came into Kennedy, passenger flight, but in the cargo hold was usually about $2 million in US currency that had been repatriated from people who had cashed the money in Europe from, in those days, German marks. And the money was now being returned to the banks in the US. And it was all cash, and it was all low denominations and not traceable. So the gang knew that the guy who ran the cargo operation at Lufthansa was in debt to them for a lot of gambling debts. So they went to him and made a deal. They said, listen, just leave the back door open tonight. We're going to come in. We're going to beat you up a little bit, but then your debts with us are forgiven. The gang thought there was going to be $2 million in there. And they showed up in some Ford Econoline van with all these guys. They beat the cargo guy up. They get into the safe. It wasn't $2 million. It was $5 million, all in cash. It was so much that they couldn't get it all in the van, right? It wasn't neatly bundled. It was like trash bags full of cash. So when they left the cargo area at Lufthansa at about 4:30 in the morning, they had guys strapped on the roof of this van. They had guys running on the sidewalls. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. Go back and look at that movie, which ironically didn't deal with this robbery very much at all in the movie. But in the real story, they couldn't get him for the robbery. They couldn't get him for the murders. They got him for fixing basketball games. That's another story, but it all started with the largest cash robbery in American history 44 years ago this week at JFK in the cargo area of Lufthansa. So a lot of ground to cover, but I wanted to share all that with you. Now let's talk about what's going on now. Coming up on the holiday period, 113 million of us will be traveling. So how does that all fit in? Not a record, but it's close. The good news is, because Christmas and New Year's fall on a Sunday, we're smart. We're able to stagger our departing days and our returning days. So there's, as opposed to Thanksgiving, there's no one really disastrous day to travel. It's sort of spread out. And now, that doesn't mean the planes will all be full. They will. Remember, the airlines are flying 10% fewer flights. The demand is still strong. So you know what that means. Everybody's on the plane. Airfares were up last month 37%. Hotel rates up 40%. And wow, how are they going to sustain that? I don't know. The demand is still strong. We will see. So there's that. The mess at the Delta Sky Clubs continues. Would you believe at some locations, Delta's like rationing out food in the hallways for the people standing in line to get in? It looks like refugees. I joined a club that is now treating us as refugees. Something is wrong. So there's that. In Europe, an interesting technical development. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and now people are really getting crazy about it. By March or April of next year, all the airlines are required to have the new 5G phone system in place on the planes, 5G technology, which means no more airplane mode. You can text, you can download data, but here's the real problem. Are you going to be allowed to make phone calls? Technically, there should be no problem. It doesn't interfere with any of the aviation systems or the navigation systems on the plane or the communication systems. So there's no argument the airlines can make that there's a safety issue. But how about a noise issue? How about the guy sitting next to you in the middle seat screaming to his mother-in-law for the entire flight on the phone? That's a problem. But we're going to see what happens. Now, is that in the US yet? No, but it's starting in Europe. By the way, I want to put to bed a rumor. There's a rumor out there that the TSA is about to eliminate the 311 rule on liquids. And I know why. By the way, the TSA would love to eliminate it, but it's all about the technology and the equipment. There is technology now, new CT scanner machines that not only can identify that there's a liquid in your bag, but they can identify the kind of liquid. Now, they're not in place yet at US airports, but the machines are manufactured, they operate, they've been proven they work. And guess what? In airports in Europe, starting at Shannon Airport in Ireland, they are working, which means you can bring any liquid on the plane as long as it's not an explosive, which is great, right? But the problem, of course, is if you're flying from Ireland to the United States and then connecting, your liquids are going to be seized. So that's the reason why I have to put the rumor to bed. Until that equipment is put in place at every airport, it's going to be a double and triple standard. So the good news is the technology is there. It is working at some airports, and the Shannon Airport is one of them. Now, if they can get their supply chain issues fixed and the budget to support it within the next year and a half, so let's say end of 2024, early 25, the liquid rule is going to go away. Yay. Okay, because I was convinced it was a conspiracy of the CVS pharmacy, but that's another story. Another thing happened this month. American Airlines has now eliminated, they've gotten rid of the Air Pass program. Anybody remember what that is? I'll tell you. Back in 1981, a guy named Carter Bibby, who used to work for American, came up with a great idea. What if the airline would sell or market an Air Pass that would give anybody unlimited first-class travel for life? And it had a pretty hefty price tag. If you could give the airline $250,000, remember that was 41 years ago, you got the pass. And the pass was good for life. Well, there were some people out there who had the money, right? And they went out there and they put down the check and they got the pass. In fact, a lot of the LA Lakers wanted it. So Magic got it, and Kareem got it, James Worthy got it. They're still flying on it, right? And if I had had the money, I probably would have single-handedly ended the program because it was unlimited. It was positive space first class. And because you paid the $250,000 for the pass, it basically was defined as a paid ticket. So you got mileage. This was nuclear fusion time. You were creating miles upon miles, plus the ticket was free anyway. Well, the numbers finally added up, and American realized this is a lost leader. Let's get rid of it. But they're still honoring the guys who got it in the first place. But it was fun while it lasted. I'm sorry I never had the money to get the pass, but boy, that's a dream that I still have. All right, so there's that story. All right, now it's time for our first little throwback picture of the week. Tell me where this was taken and when this was taken. Yeah, that's me. Where was it and when was it? I'll let you think about that. While we're doing that, let's start saying hello to some folks who have come in. John saying hi from Illinois. Katrina's hi from Alabama. Susan Bellingham, Washington. Hello to you. Catherine says hello from sunny California. And our British family's arriving from London Heathrow tomorrow. They've not been here before. We hope cold and frost doesn't keep Virgin Atlantic from taking off. I hope so too. Debbie's saying hi from Buffalo, New York. Colleen's saying we're thinking of a winter market ski trip in Europe next year. You had said the cheapest and least crowded time to fly was after Thanksgiving. Since Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday, is the following Tuesday the best way to do it? Well, to tell you the truth, if you're going overseas and you're not flying in the U.S., you could even do it earlier than that. You could leave, Thanksgiving itself if you wanted to. But no, the week after Thanksgiving is always the dead week. Tuesday is not a bad idea. All right, Robert's saying, he's on the I-10 traveling between LA and Phoenix. She had to go through Wickenburg. Well, there you go. That's where I am right now. Okay, Debbie wants to know if I can recommend a great pub or two in London. I'm not going to do it. You'll only get in trouble. Okay. Lena says Sky Club should be less crowded soon as new rules and higher guest entry fees prevent the masses from entering. Well, let's talk about this. I hear you. But if you've already invited the masses and made them members, aren't you sort of obligated to recognize that and honor that? Delta got themselves in trouble by giving away memberships because of credit card memberships or other cross promotions. And once you do that, you basically created a recipe for a disaster, which is what they have right now. So now that they're cutting people off, now they're engendering ill will. You go by a Delta Sky Club now and you see the lines in front with other Delta employees running out and like giving people carrots or something. I mean, really? This is like, I mean, I hate to say it, it's like a bad food bank distribution system. This is not why you joined the club. This is certainly not what you wanted to do when you got to the airport. It's got to be fixed. All right, Bob and Harriet, Harriet and Jim in Boston. Okay, and you're raining today. Okay, Colin says the Pied Piper 1989. Sue goes, Sue, how did you get that? Wow, Sue got it all. Okay, you're gonna have to tell me how you knew that. Sue got it, but where in the Philippines? Aha. The picture was taken in 1985. Sue got that right. Sue Hennepin, congratulations. It was in the Philippines, but where in the Philippines? I'll tell you. It was in Palawan, one of the more beautiful islands of the more than 8,000 islands of the Philippines, near Puerto Princesa, one of the great diving locations as well. That's what it was. Wow. Sue, one of these days, you're going to have to tell me how you got the year and the location. Unless you were with me and we were dating at the time, and I don't think that was true. So you let me know. But congratulations. Robert's saying American Airlines is changing their loyalty program in March. I'm not surprised. They're not changing it to make it better. I can tell you that right now. Again, if you've got a lot of unredeemed frequent flyer miles hanging around, get creative. Remember, airfares are going to start dropping around the 15th of January. When that happens, it's an indication there's space on the plane. When there's space on the plane, that's an indication that award tickets are now available, at least through May 15th. Start redeeming them. Do not wait. Okay. Lena, thank you for agreeing with me on that. Uh, Sue says, I recently read a good time to book flights is 5 a.m. on a Sunday. You're right. In fact, all day Sunday is a good time. It used to be Tuesday night at midnight. It's the whole models have changed. Sunday is the best time right now. Okay. Sue says, it just came to me. That's how you got 1985 in the Philippines? All right, so do me a favor. Who's going to win the World Cup? Help me out. Right? You know who's going to win the World Cup. I know who's going to win the World Cup. It's going to be Argentina, right? But if you tell me the score now, well, now we're really going to be talking. All right, here we go. Raquel says, I recently got approved for global entry. At the interview, the agent told me the card was not accepted as identification for air travel. He could not explain why since he's wrong. He's absolutely wrong. When you get your global entry card, that's a government issued ID. I use it all the time. So whoever told you that is absolutely wrong. Okay? I hope that that helps you. Now, let's talk about a few more things. I'm going to show you. This is one of my favorite pictures. But before we get to it, I'm going to give you some background. Every destination in the world at least toys with the idea of spending untold sums of money to come up with a slogan to get people to come visit them. Right? The tourism boards do this, and you know the tourism board of Thailand spent untold sums of money to come up with this slogan, "Land of Smiles." Now, my father once told me that if somebody's smiling all the time, they're mentally challenged. Sorry, but Land of Smiles didn't do it for me, right? India spent untold sums of money for Incredible India. I have no idea what that means, right? The one that I always laugh about, God knows how much they spent for this with consultants, Malta. Now try to restrain yourselves when I tell you what this one is. Are you ready? You sure? Visit Malta. But now, a creative award from me to the folks in tourism in the state of Nebraska. I love this slogan. Show the picture. Nebraska. Honestly, it's not for everyone. You got to love it. You have to love it. It tells you what you need to know. It's not elitist. It's actually quite quirky and fun, and it makes you want to go. And you know what? I love Nebraska. I've had a lot of fun there. But all my elitist friends would go, Nebraska, and they say it just like that, by the way. Nebraska. I love that slogan. Congratulations to them for the most creative slogan I've seen in a while. All right, let's keep going here because I got more to do. Angie says Argentina's going to win. Of course they're going to win. Tom says wrong. France will win. I love it. No, just talk to Sue Hennepin. She picked 1985 in the Philippines. Sue, who's going to win? Tell everybody. I'm going with you. Okay. Joan says greetings from California. Andrew's saying hello from Tanzania, one of my favorite places. Colleen says, well, or France will win the World Cup. She's actually picking a score now. France 2, Argentina 1. No, it's Argentina, guys. But I'm waiting to hear from Sue Hennepin. She's going to tell us. I'm going with Sue. Okay. Another Tanzania friend saying hello. Sue is saying Argentina. Yeah, but give me the score, Sue. Come on, Sue Hennepin. Jeff says, I was in Buenos Aires early in the month when Argentina defeated Australia. The city went crazy. Forget about dining during a game. Well, no kidding, right? Forget about dining in Chicago when the Cubs are playing and you're near the stadium. It ain't going to happen. But in any case, I'm happy to see that Argentina is doing something right. Here it is. Sue is now weighed in. Sue Hennepin, who picked my picture as 1985 in the Philippines, now says Argentina is going to win. Excuse my cough. And the score, according to Sue, will be 3-1. There you go. All right. Excuse my cough. Angie's saying Argentina 2-0. I'm still going with Sue. All right. By the way, Sue, if they do win 3-1, you're doing the show with me next week. There you go. All right. Jonah's saying France. All right. I'm seeing what's going on here. Okay, let's go to something else now. And that is, I'm going to show you one more picture, which gives you an idea that some things just never change. This goes back 10 years ago, my appearance on CBS News in the morning, talking about a big problem. Show the picture. See what it says? Hidden hotel fees, government warning about deceptive charges. You know what I was reporting on? You know it. Resort fees from 2012, when the Federal Trade Commission sent warning letters to major hotel chains like Marriott and Hyatt and Hilton saying, stop this. You're not being full disclosure. You're not being transparent. This is called drip pricing. It's got to stop, or we're going to take action. Well, it didn't stop and they didn't take action. And here we are 10 years later. Now, of course, in the meantime, we've had court cases where attorneys general in a number of states sued the major chains, and we did have a settlement. And I believe the settlement was with the state attorney general in Nebraska, which is not quite for everyone. But in any case, Nebraska got Marriott to settle, and in the process, Marriott now has to fully disclose what the resort fees are in the same typeface and font and position where they're quoting their hotel room rates. So it's a start. It doesn't deal with whether or not resort fees should be charged at all. We're going to get to that later. But isn't it ironic that I found this picture from 10 years ago reporting on hidden fees, and we're almost back where we started from. So I thought I'd share that. Sorry about that. I'm still recovering from too many airline flights on my throat. Okay, now, Catherine says, I love, I heart PS or New York. Great slogans and branding from Palm Springs Tourist Board. Okay, I'll give you that. Although the whole New York slogan, I love New York, was sort of misunderstood by the state because most people thought they were just talking about New York City. So the rest of the state thought they were disenfranchised from that. So let's see what happens with that. Okay, if you got some more comments, let me know. We just had our New York premiere the other night of Hidden Canary Islands, which was a great success. And the folks from the islands came in, Spanish government came in. We had a great time at the Hotel Whitby. And I'm glad everybody had a great time. And of course, that means the show is back on the air on PBS. Check your local listings. And if you can't find it there, it's streaming on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus. So check that out. Okay, now we're moving right along today. Let's go to our photo of the week. Okay, anybody want to guess where this is? Very cool photo, right? It's, these photos are all about the light. When you take a photo that you really waited for the light, or maybe you lucked out and you got the light, makes all the difference in the world. Anybody guess where this is? Well, it's Niagara Falls, and it was taken by Karen Planet. She says, it was my one and only chance to visit Niagara Falls in December. Little did I know that the falls could actually freeze, though only once completely, and that was in 1848. Whoa, global warming. More routinely, the spray and the mist drift about blown by the frigid winter winds. They create a sort of crusty layer that covers the rushing water. It's then that the falls appear to have frozen. Meanwhile, everything, and I mean everything within view, becomes encapsulated in a sleeve of crystal clear or frosty ice, like these benches and metal railings. Even the trees and sidewalks and my hair fell prey to this frozen fog. Everything. The slippery footing was treacherous, but sometimes it's worth taking big risks to capture some amazing shots. So there you go. And thank you again for sending that in, Karen. It is a wonderful photo. When you say it's sometimes worth risks to taking shots, here's the exception I'm going to make. Selfies. We did a segment on The Travel Detective. You can watch it on PBS, or if you missed it there, again, on Amazon Prime. We did a show where we actually had the photos and the video to prove it, called Death by Selfie. Not pretty. What makes people think that the definition of a great picture has to have them in it? Right? Look at Karen's, I mean, this is a great photo, right? Nobody's in it except it's a beautiful scenery. And we know she took it. Isn't that enough? If you take a look at death by selfie, you'll see how many people die each year because they want to take a picture of them with the Grand Canyon in the background and they fall off the canyon. Or they're leaning out of a train and another train decapitates them. I mean, it gets crazy. So if you get a chance, watch the show that we did and then realize that selfies are not the end of the world. Or in some cases, they are the end of the world. So there you have that. Okay, now we got a surprise for you today because I told you we are in Rancho Los Caballeros here in Wickenburg, Arizona. The naturalist here, his name is Dick Frederickson. He's been here for 40 years, but he's also a musician. And I figured it's the holiday spirit. We're at the Rancho de los Caballeros in Wickenburg, Arizona. To come on over, bring your banjo. You know we do musical entertainment every chance we get. Today's no exception. Say hi to everybody. Come on over.
Howdy, howdy.
There he is. Wait, hold on. I'm going to make sure you get the camera. There he is. And by the way, central casting, he's dressed for the role, as you can see. But this is like this every day here at the Rancho. And what are we playing today?
8 More Miles to Louisville. It's an old Grandpa Jones song.
All right, let her rip.
Travel around this countrywide, seeking fortune fair. Up and down the 2 coastlines, travel everywhere. From Portland east to Portland west and back along the line. Going down to the place that's best at old hometown line. 8 more miles in Louisville will come to my feet. 8 more miles in the soul, no more be blue. Knew someday that I'd come back and do right from the start. 8 more miles to Louisville, the hometown of my heart. There's bound to be a girl somewhere you like best of all. My life's down in Louisville, she's long and she's tall. She's the kind you can't find around so glad. On my way this very day to her heart and hand. 8 more miles in Louisville will come to my feet. 8 more miles in the soul, no more be blue. Hope someday that I'd come back and do right from the start. 8 more miles to Louisville, the hometown of my heart. Well, I can picture in my mind the place that we'll call home. A humble little house for 2 will never know to roam. A place that's right for that love sight is as blue as hills. Gently flows the Ohio by a place called Louisville. 8 more miles in Louisville will come to my feet. 8 more miles in the soul, no more be blue. Knew someday that I'd come back and do right from the start. 8 more miles to Louisville, the hometown of my heart.
Oh, nicely done.
Thank you.
Dick Frederickson. Thank you, man. I love it.
Thanks.
I love it. 8 more miles to Louisville, for those of you in Louisville. But thank you again. Happy holidays, everybody. A couple other things I want to talk about before we get to more of your questions. And remember I talked about the 3-1-1 rule, the liquid rule? There's a scam going on about the liquid rule. I'm going to share it with you. And the people who are doing this should be ashamed of themselves. It's airport retail operators in international airports. I'll give you an example. You know and I know that when you're getting ready to go on a flight overseas, you go through passport and immigration, right? Then you go through security. You're not allowed to bring any liquids on the plane. So you have to leave everything back, right? Now you cleared that, and now you run the gauntlet of the duty-free shops, right? That's how airports are designed. And maybe you go through that, and then on the way to the gate, there are other retail stores that sell what? Juice and coffee and water and sodas and candies and everything else. Now you've already cleared security, and the presumption has to be that all the products that are in duty-free and all the products that are in every one of those stores, they've also cleared security or they wouldn't be able to sell them, right? So everybody has a good intention here. You're about to take an 11-hour flight. You know, the flight attendants may not be serving you every 4 minutes. So what do? You go and buy one of these or maybe 2 of these. But because the flight is going to the United States, At certain airports around the world, that's deemed a higher security risk. And so there's additional security at the gate where they're going to ask you to open up your carry-on bags and they're going to inspect those too. Now, remember, nobody gave you anything. You bought a bottle of water or apple juice or whatever at a store that was after you cleared security. All the materials and products at that store had to clear security as well. And yet, you go through the secondary security now before you get on the plane, and they take the water. Now, you know, and I know, and that store knows that was going to happen. And yet they willingly, and without giving you the proper cautions, sold you the water. First of all, we're dealing with moronic policy here, right? If I've cleared security and everything on the other side of security has cleared security, then I should be able to buy 9 of these, right? I should buy the entire apple juice producing region of the world there. It doesn't matter. But somebody's validating their job and making you think that security is even better because they're going to check the water again. No, you check the water when you check the water. Otherwise, it never should have even got to the store because then the store could blow up. So here's my caution to you when dealing with moronic airport policies, ranging with security that has no absolute meaning or effect. Do not buy on flights going to the United States from a foreign airport. Do not buy any liquids at a retail store that are then going to be seized at the gate, right? That's it. But I would like to ask the airport authorities in Istanbul, in Frankfurt, in Amsterdam, in London, in Paris, and many other airports to explain to me, look, I'm the kind of guy, and you might take issue with me on this, but I'm the kind of guy, if a police officer pulls me over and said, I'm sorry, sir, the speed limit's 65 miles an hour, my question to him would be, could you tell me why? And if the police officer says to me, because we've done the research, and it's 66 miles an hour, you're going to die a fiery death, my response to him is, wow, thank you for telling me, I'll drive 50. But if I'm pulled over and told the speed limit's 65 miles an hour, and I ask why, and the answer is, well, it's our policy, or because, well, you haven't made your case, and I'm going to drive 80. That's me. That's how stories get done, by the way. Well, I'm asking the airports right now to explain this moronic policy. Give me the security chiefs. Tell me what you're really doing there, right? Tell me. Look, this water either didn't clear security and all those stores are at risk, or somebody is just being a moron. I'm going to take a wild guess. Moron! But I'd like you to make your case. If anybody's watching me who works at an airport, please tell me how you've come up with this policy. You've either cleared security or you haven't. Here's the other moronic thing. Now, I understand why they did it back in 1988. But now, let's go back to 1988. There was a situation with an El Al plane where a woman who was about to board the plane was asked if she could take a package to a friend. And she did, and it turned out to be an explosive device. And that's serious stuff. So as a result, they were then asking questions. By the way, 3 questions. And the answer is always going to be yes, yes, and no, right? It's been yes, yes, and no in 1988. It's been yes, yes, and no in 1998. It's been yes, yes, and no in 2008, in 2018, and it's yes, yes, and no in 2022, and it's meaningless now. Any terrorist can be trained, even if English isn't in their 9th language, to say yes, yes, and no. Are you ready? Repeat after me. Have you packed the bags yourself? Yes. Have they been with you at all times? Yes. Did anybody give you anything? No. That's it, right? But it doesn't make any sense now, right? Because even if somebody did give you something, it either didn't clear security with you, or it did clear security with you and it's not a problem, right? It goes back to this. It either did clear security and it's okay, or your system is moronic. So now, when I go to get on a plane to come back to the United States, I just look at the security guy and go, yes, yes, and no. He says, but I got to ask the questions anyway. So we go through the theatrics of it. And I answer yes, yes, and no. And I shake my head. Now, am I being difficult? Yeah, I'm being difficult with portfolio. If you're going to have security, have it make sense. Ask people questions that cannot be answered by yes or no. That's the key. It goes back to basic interrogation techniques that I use as an investigative reporter or that a homicide detective uses in investigating a murder. If I think you killed somebody, the very first question I'm not going to ask you is, did you kill him? Because you're going to say no, and I have nowhere to go, right? A question that can be answered by yes or no doesn't help anybody. What I'm going to do instead is engage you in a conversation. We can talk about your life, your job, your sports, whatever you like. And at one point, I'm going to ask you a question that cannot be answered by yes or no. And your answer to that will determine everything I need to know. So we'll be talking about this and this and this, and I'll finally say, oh, so what'd you do with the gun? No yes or no there. And if you answer that question, then we really have something to talk about. So why are we asking these moronic yes, yes, and no questions since 1988? Nothing has been accomplished. That's where we have security theater. And that's what gets you angry. Because even after you answer those three questions, they still take this after you clear security. Stupid, moronic, and obviously a source for discussion today. By the way, that discussion is now over because everything I told you is rhetorical. You can't argue against it. Moronic is moronic. I just want the airport security guys to make their case because maybe they have one. Maybe in the bowels of the airport, there's a demented water maker. I don't think so. Let's find out. All right. So if you know anybody who works at an airport in security, please ask them to get in touch with me because this is stupid. But in the meantime, until we have those answers, do yourself a favor, save a lot of money. Don't buy anything from an airport retail store after you've cleared security, especially if it's lotion, potion, water, or apple juice. There you go. All right, let's go back to, sorry about that, but I mean, it got my attention. I got angry. And I got angry because they couldn't make their case. All right. So this is my version of driving 80. All right, let's go to some of the questions you sent earlier in the week. Okay. You mentioned, Chad says you mentioned that there's a new bill now introduced in Congress. However, the FAA reauthorization bill is not showing as having been introduced yet. Okay. What I said was there's language in the new FAA reauthorization bill that asks the FAA to reconsider Part 129 rule, allowing for what? A single cockpit person crew. No. Is it on the floor of the House yet? No. Is it in the legislation as written yet? It is. So I hope that's clearing it up. It's going to be introduced soon. Okay, here we go. Peter, this is from Samantha. You always say which days are the busiest to travel before Christmas. This year, which day will it be since Christmas falls on the weekend? I think I answered that earlier. Because Christmas falls on a Sunday and New Year's falls on a Sunday, there is no one busiest day. There's one that's slightly busier. Of course, it's the Friday before Christmas and the Friday before New Year's. And more than likely, not the first, but the second on the way back. But not appreciably bigger because people are staggering their departures and their returns, okay? Okay, Jose says, I want to ask for your thoughts on fuel surcharges by the airlines. Okay. There are legal cases here. How can you charge a fuel surcharge if gas prices have come down? Just asking, right? There's something we need to talk about there. And we've seen situations where hotels got busted for charging for energy surcharges when we checked with the local utilities and found out they hadn't increased their bills. So it's always a good idea to ask, because then legal precedent gets set. And look, I understand things are going up. I understand inflation. But if they're not going up and everybody else thinks they are, that doesn't give you justification to raise your rates. Okay. Now, before we say goodbye, I'm going to look down here, right here. Oh, yes. For those of you who listen to me in the Miami area on WIOD radio with Jimmy Cefalo, excuse me, today was Jimmy's last day. He's retiring from the show, not from the station. I've been a regular guest on that show with Jimmy for the last 11 plus years. Today was my last day with Jimmy, and he's definitely going to be missed. I'll know next week what I'll be doing on WIOD as they rearrange their morning schedule. But all I can tell you right now, and this comes from Melanie Wood, so Melanie, I hope I can give you an answer. All I can say now is Jimmy's going to be missed. Manny, who's Jimmy's sidekick, is getting his own show, and that'll be in the afternoon, I believe. But I'll have more information for you when we get together on Facebook Live next week on that. Okay? Jeff says, bottled water's allowed to the TSA in Ecuador. Well, there's no TSA in Ecuador for domestic flights. Just returned from there. Okay, there's hope. But there's no consistent enforcement here. All right, Terry's saying Feliz Navidad and Feliz Hanukkah from California's historic Route 66. Carmen's saying happy holidays from Tampa. Joan is saying great banjo playing. There you go. All right, and it was great banjo playing. All right, hello from Nairobi. Sue Hannafin is saying awesome. Remember, Sue, I'm going to go with your score. Argentina beating France. And remember, if they win by that score, you're my special guest on the show next week. All right. Okay. Joan says, any thoughts about Peru in March? I have a lot of thoughts on Peru in March. Why don't you email me, Peter at petergreenberg.com, and give me some more details about what you hope to do there, what your budget's like, and where you hope to go. And there we have it. I'm going to scroll right down, see if I missed anybody. Lorraine says, she's responding to what I said about water. I've been robbed of my water, food, and coffee, and it makes no sense. I agree. Okay. All right, more Tanzania folks saying hi. By the way, you can still watch Royal Tour of Tanzania on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus, and also on PBS, so check that out. All right, guys, we got to roll. But I want to say, do we have one more song? Come on back. Oh my God. Doug, I'm so sorry. Hey, it's a bonus. It's a bonus. Doug, come on over here. What's the song?
It's from Porgy and Bess. Summertime.
I never heard of that song.
And the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Well, your daddy's rich, and your mammy's good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. You're gonna spread your wings and take to the sky. Till that morning, there ain't nothing can harm you. With your daddy and mammy standing by.
Dick Fredrickson, everybody, the naturalist here at Rancho de los Caballeros in Wickenburg, Arizona. Thank you, man. That was great.
Thanks.
Before I sign off, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Of course, our radio show, Ion Travel, airing this Saturday from a very distant location, not in the US, I might add, might surprise you. I'll give you a hint. It's one of the unbelievable Roman cities, but it's not in Italy. That's your hint. Other than that, of course, Ion Travel beyond that, we've got Hidden Canary Islands, Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus and PBS, the Royal Tour of Tanzania, all three of those platforms as well. In the meantime, happy early holidays, everybody. Please drive safely. Please travel safely. And I'll see you next week.